It's true that retirement is one of life's top 10 traumas. We don't treat it that way, and we need to think about it more seriously.
Today on the Steadyhand Coffee Break video series, we're really pleased to have Dr. Riley Moynes join us. Welcome, Riley.
Nice to be here, David, and thanks for including me in your session today. I look forward to it.
Now, Dr. Moynes is the author of this book, The 4 Phases of Retirement. And in fact, Riley's TED Talk on the topic has now been viewed by over 4.5 million people, and that's just in the last 2 years. Retirement is often seen as the finish line, but Riley's going to help us understand that it's a journey with distinct emotional and psychological phases. And in this video, we're going to explore those phases and how recognizing them can help lead to a more fulfilling retirement. Let's talk about those 4 phases, and let's talk about those 5 losses and those 3 Ds, all part of your framework. I think is really, really fascinating. So what's the first of those 4 phases?
Well, the first phase is what I call the vacation phase, because that's just what it's like. When we're on vacation, we have no set routine. We go to bed when we want. We get up when we want. We do what we want, where we want, if we want, with whom we want. And it's just, as I say, like being on vacation. The vacation phase I've found lasts for between 1 and 2 years generally, sometimes less, obviously, sometimes more. For me, it was just about 2 years dead on. It's a time when, for most retirees, they're kind of either mentally or physically checking off some bucket list activities that they had put together over the preceding years, things that they wanted to get done when it was their time. And now it's their time. That often includes, maybe some golf lessons, maybe new golf clubs, a new sailboat, a sports car, maybe a warm weather spot that you can use to get away from winter. That sort of thing tends to be typical in phase 1, as does travel. Although I find that travel is across all 4 phases. All the retirees love to do that, it seems, whatever phase they're in. Interestingly enough, so for most people, then in vacation phase, it's all about freedom. I've worked hard for a number of years, whether domestically or whether outside the home, and now it's my time, and I'm going to enjoy it to the full. For most retirees, phase 1 represents their view of an ideal retirement. It's cavorting along the beach with a loved one, perhaps with a glass of wine in hand and watching the sunset, all that kind of stuff. That's what all of the advertising tells us retirement is about. And it is until it isn't. Because for me, at about 2 years, I find that I was actually getting pretty bored. You could only play so much golf. And I started to wonder, as many others have, is that all there is to retirement? I was told that this was the ideal, and it was for a while, but now I'm bored stiff. And when that happens, we've moved in towards phase 2, which is a time when one person described it to me as being a time where they felt monumentally insignificant. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but it's true that retirement is one of life's top 10 traumas. It has been identified that way through research. It's up there with loss of a spouse, with death of a spouse. It's up there with divorce. It's up there with moving to a new job, moving to a new location. It is one of life's top 10 traumas, and we don't treat it that way, and we need to think about it more seriously. But now we're in phase 2, and in phase 2, there are 5 significant losses that I've discovered that are almost they are intimately connected with retirement. They are the direct result of retirement. The first of those is the loss of structure. For many years, we were governed by structure. We didn't always like it, but there was the structure, there was the routine. That was part of our life. Interestingly enough, when we retire, we lose that structure. And although we're happy not to have the structure for a time being in the vacation phase, I'm convinced that we're wired in such a way that we need a structure. We're genetically wired. We need to have some kind of structure, and that's been lost.
And I would add to that, being a grandfather trying to coach my kids around raising their kids, I talk about the importance of structure and routine in raising infants. You're saying that it's a cradle to grave kind of thing, that we as humans need structure.
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. We don't always like it, but when we don't have it, we seem to miss it. So the second major loss is that of identity, because many of us, whether we work, as I say, domestically or whether we work outside the home, we identify with the work that we do. We take it seriously. It's important to us. And when we're retired, we lose that aspect. We lose that identity that we relate to with whatever it was that we were doing. Thirdly, we miss relationships that we may well have established over a lengthy period of time. Some of those folks have become good long-term friends, and yet when we retire, some of those relationships that at least are lost. We lose, fourthly, a sense of purpose, because it seems that almost whatever we did, we take it seriously. We want to do the very best we can. We gain purpose from whatever it is we're doing. And when we step away, that part of us is lost as well. And finally, for some folks, over a period of time, there may have been a sense of power that was gained through maybe control over personnel or a budget. But the truth is that when we walk out the door for the last time, we're just a guy or a gal in the street and nobody cares. And we don't see these things coming. And we lose them all at once when we retire because they're directly related to retirement. It's like, bam! It can be traumatic and it hits us all at once. And in phase two, it gets worse. Because in addition to these 5 almost unavoidable losses directly related to retirement, we have to deal with the 3 Ds, which are not directly related to retirement, but rather to a time of life which overlaps retirement. So we have some form of decline, some kind of physical decline, where our silky smooth golf swing isn't so silky smooth anymore. And we have some mental decline where we've forgotten where we put our keys. And honey, where's the remote? I gave you the remote. I know you've got the remote. Where is it? I can't find it. That kind of decline. Then we've got a sense of depression. The world famous Mayo Clinic has indicated that they have found that when you retire, there is a 40% likelihood that you will demonstrate aspects of clinical depression. 40%. And then there's the divorce statistics, which I found just mind-blowing, where the rates of divorce, people over 50 have doubled since 1990. And for those over 65, the rates have tripled since 1990. To the point that the highest rate of suicide in North America today is men over 75. So this combination of these 5 almost unavoidable losses and the 3 Ds that sort of overlap can make a person feel like they've been hit by a bus. It is a very traumatic time related to retirement, for sure.
In your work with couples, because I know you do a lot of seminars and sort of you have programs. In your work with couples, do you see any sort of gender bias? Like, does it hit the guys more than it hits the gals, or does it hit all of us the same?
I would say that my experience, and I can't, like, it's not, haven't done a scientific study on it, and I can't back it up with all kinds of data, but I can tell you that holistically, gals find it easier in phase 2 than the guys do. They don't take perhaps things as seriously as we did in terms of these sense of identity or losses. They seem to me a little bit more resilient, but again, that's just a kind of a sense that I've had in those conversations.
And you said earlier, phase 1, it lasts, maybe on average, if you're lucky, I think 2 years, that vacation.
Yeah.
How long does phase 2 last? And I guess it probably depends on the strategies that you can deploy to get you out of that.
Yes. It's very, very difficult. I guess the best that I can say, David, would be that for the other phases, people reach different depths in those phases, and they are there for different lengths of time. I think I can provide, as we get to phase 4, a kind of a way that people could speed it up getting through phase 2, but let's leave that for a moment if we can. So phase 2, a very, very difficult time, a time that really can be very, very challenging for many folks. Fortunately, most people at some point or another, though, do say to themselves, perhaps, or to a significant other, a spouse, they say something like, hey, I can't go on like this. I don't want to spend the rest of my life, which, by the way, for baby boomers may well be up to 30 years of their life, 1/3 of their lives spent in retirement. That's entirely possible, and I'm seeing it over and over again. Back in 1950, average life expectancy in North America was 68 years. So we could anticipate about 3 years of retirement. Now it's closer to 30 years of retirement. So it's really important that we get past phase 2. So as we move into phase 3, people are saying, hey, I can't go on like this. I don't want to spend 1/3 of my life feeling like this. What do I need to do? We start asking ourselves, what do I need to do to kind of make my life meaningful again? What's going to make me want to get up in the morning again? And how can I contribute? Well, that leads us to phase 3. And phase 3 is what I refer to as the phase of trial and error, where what we need to do is to think about some activities that are going to kind of get us out of phase 2. And the thing that I've discovered is that phase 3, it involves, of course, trial, but in my experience, at least, and in the experience of many others, it also involved failure or error, trial and failure, interchangeable words, because it's unlikely that the bright idea that you think you have that's going to lead you into phase 4 is going to be the one that leads you into phase 4. Over and over again, people have had false starts. And I've had about a dozen of them that I generally share a couple, one of which was where I got involved for a couple of years on a condo board. Until, as I say, and a lot of people in the audience are kind of smiling at that time, until, as I say, I got tired of being yelled at. And that didn't work out so well. I thought about law school. I had thought about law school for a number of years and thought, hey, maybe this is my opportunity. And then I realized that it's a big nut to crack, and there's a lot of time involved, and I'm not really sure I was ready for that. So I then thought about, well, maybe I could become a paralegal, where it's kind of, in a sense, kind of similar. You're trying to help people out. And then I thought, I didn't really want to spend all that much time perhaps fighting in small claims court about speeding tickets, that sort of stuff. But there was an element of that really appealed to me. It had to do with alternate dispute resolution and mediation. And I invested about 3 years taking a number of University of Windsor courses on the topic, various aspects of that topic. And I had high hopes that there was something it could develop there. It went nowhere. It was a fairly long-term investment that just didn't pay off. And the final example that I'll use is that I love to write. And so I thought about, when people retire, maybe they're thinking about doing some memoirs or a family history. And I could put together a little book or a little program that could be helpful to people. And so I put together this, what I thought was a pretty darn good program, Getting Started on Your Memoirs. It's been a bomb. It just has not had any traction whatsoever. So those are the sorts of things, and you just have to keep plugging away. And what I've found is that only about 60% of retirees in my research get to phase 4. Only about that percentage, 60 to 65%, get to phase 4. Some people beat their head against a wall in phase 3, and they just don't find the thing that can propel them forth into phase 4. And I've seen some people slip from phase 3 back to phase 2, and they become part of those statistics. That's the hardest thing to see that I've witnessed during this kind of journey. So only about 60% break through to phase 4, but those who do are among the happiest people that I have ever met, because these people just cannot wait for the sun to rise in the morning. They've got more things that they want to get done than they have time for in many cases. They're actively involved. And what I have found is the one distinguishing characteristic that separates phase 4 from all other phases is providing service to others. It's just as simple as that. People who provide service to others are involved socially, which is critical. It makes them feel good because they're helping other people, and they're probably taking advantage of some of the strengths and successes they've experienced previously and perhaps applied them in entirely different situations in phase 4. In a nutshell, those are the 4 phases.
In doing my research for this discussion, I came upon a comment that you'd made where you said people spend so much time thinking about how they're going to make their money last, but they spend virtually no time thinking about how they're going to make their days pass, or whatever the right kind of connotation is there. And so that's where phase 3 is all about trial and error, as you say. Just try different things. And as I think about what my phase 3 would look like, I'm blessed with so many different interests, including I'd like to actually learn how to cook. I think that would be fun. And then I could graduate from phase 3 to phase 4 by cooking for others.
Yes, indeed.
As an example, well, my father is 97 and he's living independently.
Good for him.
And he is famous at his condominium for being the gardener. So you will see him on any given day out weeding the garden or planting. And on the days that he's not doing that, he's volunteering at the Sunnybrook Hospital here in Toronto. And he's just like, he has so found his phase 4. It's fantastic. So I completely, based on my own personal circumstances, subscribe to this notion. But let's just go back to phase 2 to phase 3 for a moment, because that's a huge leap to go from a place where you're experiencing, these losses and the 3Ds and all the rest of it, to go from that to a sense of optimism. Can you share some examples of how you've seen people make that transition?
Yeah, I guess one of my favorite stories in that regard, David, would be my friend John. He played hockey through his 80s, if you can imagine. He was still playing hockey in his 80s, non-contact at that point. And he enjoyed it tremendously. He loved the camaraderie of the dressing room and all that stuff. He loved to hit the ice. Well, one day he did hit the ice. He hit it literally, and it brought his hockey playing days to an end. And he really suffered as a result of that. I would have positioned him in phase 2. He was really struggling. He just didn't know how to spend his time. He didn't know what to do. This was so important to him. And then he decided with some help from his wife, Peggy, he decided that he would become the team manager. And so although he couldn't play, he still was actively involved with the hockey team, organizing their schedule and planning tournaments and all of their social events. And he's kind of regained that joie de vivre that he had when he was playing. So that's kind of a classic example of someone who really struggled and considered himself to be in phase two, and then sort of bounced back, and it was delightful to watch.
Peggy was an important advocate for him at that stage. What other things can we, as relatives, partners, children, friends, neighbors, etc., what other things can we be doing to support retirees moving from phase two into phase three, and phase three into phase four?
I think that there are a number of things. First of all, I would say, I believe that if you're forewarned, you can be forearmed. And so I like to think that just being aware of these four phases that we are most likely going to go through, either, for different periods of time and to different levels of depression, perhaps, but to be aware that these things are going to happen really can help, I think, in being prepared to deal with them. The second thing that we try to do in our workshop is to provide means by which we can increase the percentage of people between 60 and perhaps up to 80% of folks who get to phase four. And I'm convinced that there are kind of two or three things that we as advisors, that financial advisors and family can do to help people. First of all, I think it's really important that people know what they are good at, what I call it unique ability. And yet we don't take very much time for introspection. We're not very good at it unless we're forced to do it. So we force people to do it during our workshops, and advisors can force people to think about this, as can partners. So to me, knowing your unique ability is very simple. What is the thing or things you love to do, and that you do darn well, you do them superbly well? It's as simple as that. What do you do really well? What do you love to do? We've all got those things, but we don't think about them. The second thing that we ask people to think about is just list 5 big successes that you've had in your life up until now. You can probably do 50, but we force people to think about 5, just 5. And then we say, okay, what's the connection between these two? And I'm surprised over and over again, David, that people don't always see the connection. But the things that you love to do and do really well have almost always led to success in the past. And I believe they will, or they can again. But you need to know what your strengths and what you love to do and what has led to success. The third thing I think that it's critically important to do is, what's in it for me? Because whatever we do, we have to get something out of it. And so for people, for the most part, people in phase 4, although increasingly people, retirees, I think, are working part-time, which gives them some real satisfaction. But again, to come back to its service to others, whether it's on a volunteer basis or whether perhaps you get a little bit of beer money for delivering pizzas on a Friday night, as one of my interviewees does now. He gets great joy out of that. He delivers hot, fresh, delicious pizza to people who can't wait for him to get there. It makes him feel terrific, and he earns a little bit of money doing it as well. So that's how I think we can help partners, and as advisors, we can help clients. It's just helping them to be aware of those strengths, successes, what they love to do, and also just the big picture, the 4 phases as a construct can be really helpful.
It's said that strength is in numbers, and it feels there's a common theme weaving its way through the 4 phases, and that is the importance of community and the sense of belonging. And so the hockey player wanted to belong to that hockey team, and he couldn't any longer as a skater, but he could as a manager / coach. Is there anything more you want to say about the importance of community in the 4 phases?
It's critical. It is very, very important because lots of research shows that when we become increasingly isolated, we fall into depression. And then bad things happen. Physical falls begin to happen. And it can be a kind of a downward spiral. The happiest people that I have met, that I have interviewed, that I see over and over again are phase 4 people, and they are always involved with others. Always, whether it be through church groups, whether it be through playing bridge or mahjong or art, it doesn't matter. It's all about community, and that is so critical. And people who are not in phase 4 don't get it. People who are in phase 4 do get it.
Well, let's wrap it up and give people a chance to go to Amazon and buy your book. If you were to find somebody that was asking for one piece of advice, Riley, as either I'm about to enter into retirement and join the first of those 4 phases, or maybe I'm stuck in one of these phases and I want to move forward, is there one piece of advice that you could give me?
I have found that people who understand the 4 phases have a different view of retirement than they did before. They find it to be a helpful view because it kind of it helps to explain what they're feeling now or what they have felt in the past. And at the time that you're going through it, just like me, I didn't see a pattern. I just felt lost and discombobulated. So I find that the framework can really be helpful in that regard. And the second thing that I would say is know what your unique ability is. Just think about it. Know what has led to past successes, because perhaps in an entirely different field than you were applying them before, they can be very helpful to you in finding your niche in phase 4 in retirement. Absolutely.
Well, I asked for one and we got 100% more than that. So thank you very much for that. And Riley, thank you for your excellent contribution to helping Canadians contemplating entering or living in retirement. And I encourage everybody who enjoyed today's video to, in fact, go out and get a copy of Riley's book. Riley, before we let you go, what other resources or what other ways can people learn more about the work that you have and continue to do?
Well, certainly the book is available on our website, the4phases.com. And at that same spot, you'll find some of the workshops that we've done. And I also kind of break down some of the 4 phases in little snippets that may be helpful to people as well. And they're all accessible there on the website. And I would encourage people to consider going to YouTube, the 4 phases of retirement, and they'll find my TED Talk there, kind of the Reader's Digest version in about 12 minutes.
Squeezing all the juice out of life.
Squeezing all the juice.
Fantastic. Well, again, that's been a fantastic video today. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And if you at home watching this video have enjoyed it and want to be alerted when Steadyhand releases new videos, be sure to like and subscribe and ask to be notified. Thank you again, Riley, and thank you all for watching, and see you again soon.
David, my pleasure. Thanks again for inviting me.